Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akalon here, and welcome back to each and every one of you. And of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. Of course, in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the big bad one, the guy that everyone is afraid of right now, and that is Zovaal the Jailer. Hopefully, he is on the screen, or else you're just looking at me, sitting here, wishing that Alex would put a picture of Zovaal on the screen. Yeah. I don't have high hopes that that is actually going to happen, so let's just continue. So Zovaal has been the topic of conversation quite a bit, especially in speculation circles. There's been a ton of people basically asking questions around him, but no one really ever attempts to ask the most important question. Why was he locked up? What did he do? What could he have potentially done? Now, I understand why most people aren't asking that question. I fully understand. I haven't even asked that question. And the reason for it is there is really no good answers. What we know about Zovaal is actually frighteningly little. Blizzard introduced him. They showed a guy that is locked up, now seemingly moving around freely in the maw, and we are going to touch on what I think is happening there. So if you want to know why Zovaal is in fact not tied up, that's definitely going to be part of this video. But apart from that, there's very little, right? So first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that he wants? If we are trying to figure out why he was locked up, if we're trying to answer that question, perhaps we should first look at what it is that he wants. Now, the best way for us to do that is to look at Sylvanas. If you look at Sylvanas and you look specifically at the cinematics where she is talking to Anduin, and we have gone through those cinematics ad nauseum at this point, it becomes clear what Sylvanas wants, and Sylvanas is aligning herself with Zovaal, so surely Zovaal wants the same thing. However, this is where things, I think, get a little bit tricky. Take a look at this cinematic, just the bit, the first bit of this cinematic, really.
Sire Denathrius has been taken prisoner. What is our plan to recover him?
Every soul has its purpose. Denathrius has fulfilled his. We must forge our next weapon.
He's not.
In the cinematic that you just saw, it becomes extremely clear, right, what is going on here. Do you really believe that Zovaal and Sylvanas, do you think that they are actually aligned in what they want? Sylvanas asks, what about this guy that's helped us, this guy that has been there and has made almost everything that has happened up until this point possible? What are we going to do? How are we going to help him? How are we going to rescue him? And Zovaal goes, every soul has its purpose. Sire Denathrius have served his. It's done. You can almost see it in her face. There is a moment of discontent, a moment where she's not okay with that answer. Why not? Because what Zovaal is saying in that very moment is the very thing that Sylvanas is trying to fight against, right? The idea that souls simply serve a purpose, and once that purpose is over, they're over as well. Their usefulness, they've outlived their usefulness, so to speak. So you can see that right there, Zovaal clearly doesn't want Sylvanas. Now, why am I wasting your time with this? Because this is part of the investigation that we have to do, and I would love to hear from you in the comment section down below. Before we even get into this video, what do you think? Now, what I want you to do is answer the question in the comment section, but then at the end of the video, revisit it and tell me if I've changed your mind, or maybe throughout this conversation, something clicked in your mind and you went, whoa. He just said that, and that made me connect that, and I'm connecting this and this and this, and you basically turn into an Alex Jones of World of Warcraft as you're listening to the video. I would love to get your feedback on where you are at the end of this video. But I'm showing you this to show you that, okay, so examining Sylvanas' reasons for doing what she's doing, I don't think it's helpful in trying to figure out what Zovaal wants, because I think ultimately he just wants to be in control. Of what, I'm not entirely sure, but I get the distinct idea that the only problem Zovaal has with the current system is that he is not in control of it. Or maybe something to that effect. Now, if we wish to establish or examine this any further, we have to take a look once again at the creation process, how all of these things came together. Now we all know the map, I don't even have to look up the map. I see the map in my dreams. That's how often I take a look at this map. But you have the cosmology map. And of course, the cosmology map comes from the Chronicles, a book, 3 books actually, written by the Titans as a sort of account of how everything came to be. But there's something very interesting, something that only clicked for me very recently. We all know that the Chronicles can't really be trusted. The map can't really be trusted. I've been saying it for years at this point, right? But there is something that can be trusted. At least based on the fact that we have 2 accounts of it, and both of those accounts come from different sources. The creation of the universe, or more specifically the creation of Titans. The Chronicle states that in the beginning there was an ocean of light, and this ocean of light exploded outwards into the great beyond. And inside this explosion, as this light flooded the great beyond, energies, Titan souls, found settlement near stars for warmth. And the immense amount of power that they had started to attract mass, and this built planets around them. And that's how the Titan and the Titan worlds were born. From an ocean of light. Keep that in mind, because that is going to be important. From this ocean of light, the Titan souls came to be, and the Titan worlds came into existence. We have one other story that accounts a very similar birth. The story of Argus in 1,000 Years of War. Argus says that he remembers settling near a star, and he remembers a planet forming around him. And then of course he goes on to explain the agony that he experienced with Sargeras, and how Sargeras influenced him, used him. But the fact that Argus sort of replicates or confirms what the Titans said, how they came into being, leads me to ask the question, what if the Titans weren't wrong about that? I don't think they're lying about that. What if they're correct? Well, this throws the entire cosmology out of whack. Take a look at the map. The map suggests that there are 6 cosmological forces, and that these 6 cosmological forces keep each other in balance. That they were effectively, at least this is what the stories at this point want to suggest, the first ones sort of created these cosmological forces as a way to keep balance of the great beyond. Now, I've made a ton of videos about why I think that is completely wrong. My most recent video actually discusses how Azeroth may in fact be the realm of life itself, at least according to the denizens of Erebos. And if you want to watch that video, we should have a link, or at least we should have the thumbnail up here, and I probably will have a link in the description down below to that video if you haven't watched it yet. But it's all wrong. I mean, let's listen to what the Titans themselves said, how they described themselves coming into being. There was an ocean of light. Now, what was outside of that ocean of light? What existed outside of it? If there's an ocean of light, picture in your mind, here is the ocean of light. What is outside of it? Nothingness. Void. The Titans, by the way, never describe how the void came into being. It describes this ocean of light and an explosion, and then clashes between the light and the void, and wherever those clashes were fiercest, the twisting nether came into being. But based on the Titans' their own description of how the universe came into being, there was only, and always have only been, 2 cosmological forces. There's only ever been 2 forces at play in our universe. The light and the void. The others seemingly seem to be extensions of the primaries. So if we look at it, the light being a primary force of the universe and the void being the opposite primary force, then we can make the argument that life and order is a natural flow of light. If you look at how life and order operate, it's very similar to that of the light. The Titans, who apparently come from order, is extremely one-track minded. They have that hyper focus on a single truth and nothing but a single truth. They don't seem capable of veering off of their goal, off of their destination. And it takes great effort, as we've seen with Sargeras, to actually convince, but once they're convinced, they become fanatical in their pursuit of the other. And then you look at the void, you look at death, and you look at disorder, and you almost feel as if there's a flow there as well. Think about what void actually is. What is void? What does the word mean? It's emptiness. It's nothing. If there is a void, then that means there is a place where nothing exists. What is death, if not that? What is death, if it is not nothingness? Is that not what Sylvanas is trying to achieve? The fact that she aided N'Zoth in battle for Azeroth, although she did eventually betray him, or at least didn't give a fuck and just left, but the fact that she worked with him suggests to me that the void is integral in the plan that she has for the universe. The Maw. We have had multiple conversations about the Maw, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been at any one of the Sunday Night Chill shows, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. The Maw has always been an interesting place to me, primarily because it looks like a city. If you run around the Maw and you look up into the nothingness that is above it, or you look down, what you find is a world ripped apart, but the remnants of a giant city. That's what the Maw looks like to me. Gargua, the River of Souls, reminds me of the River Styx. I believe the Maw is the city of the damned, and before people go, well, what are you talking about, Akalon? Look at the natural flow of the Soul Stream. While the Arbiter existed and the Kyrians would take souls into the Soul Stream would take those souls in front of the Arbiter, and then the Kyrians would abduct these souls or intercept them and then take them to their rightful home. With the Arbiter now broken and the Kyrians incapable of intercepting these souls because these souls have not been sorted yet, the souls have a natural flow, and it seems that natural flow is straight down to the Maw. You can think of it like this. Imagine a river, right? A river that flows all the way from the middle of a country into the ocean. If I build a dam right in the middle of this river, right in the center, I build a giant dam. All I did was I created an obstacle for the water to continue down its natural route. But the river is still there, right? You'll still see the remnants of the river for hundreds, if not thousands of years, even after this dam have stopped all the water from flowing. But now imagine that this dam bursts, right? We have this giant, beautiful dam that stops all the water from flowing into the ocean, and now this dam supplies water to all of the farms and everything around it, and it is lush, it is green, it is beautiful. It's even become a resort where people can enjoy themselves and come from far and wide to view the wonders of this dam. Now imagine that this dam bursts. The walls of this dam comes crumbling down. Will this water all of a sudden start flowing in the opposite direction? Will it suddenly just go off in its own fucking direction? No. It will follow along its original path, because that's what rivers do. The river found already, thousands and thousands of years ago, it found the path of least resistance, and it will continue down the path of least resistance. So the river will simply continue its flow all the way into the ocean, most likely after the flood, it will resume its natural flow the same way it has done before the dam was built. Now think about the River of Souls the exact same way. These are souls that come from what I believe to be the realm of life, flowing straight into the realms of death. And Oribos sits as a dam for these souls. These souls flow into Oribos, and from there, they're rerouted to different homes, different farms to flourish and become lush. But when the dam broke, the soul simply continued down its natural path, the path of least resistance, to where it was always meant to be, Ny'alotha. You see, the Void talk about Ny'alotha consistently, all the time. And whenever they describe Ny'alotha, now that I run into the maw and I look at the creatures that walk there, think about the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron. And by the way, this Sunday, we're going to go through all of the Whispers of the Old God, so I don't want to spend too much time going into it here. But I will say this. The puzzle box of Yogg-Saron, it talks about, in the drowned city walks only mad things, mad, terrible things. I think I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact line, but what is the maw if not mad? Terrible place of unnumbered crimes. What is the maw if not a terrible place with unnumbered crimes? The maw is Ny'alotha, the original inheritors of death, the original destination of souls was into Ny'alotha, into oblivion. But the light, as it so often does, interfered with the process. You see, anima is a far too valuable resource to be wasted sending it back to the Void Lords. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. I admit that. But I don't think I am. That's something that someone who is wrong would say, right? Anyways, let's just continue and see where this takes us. And if you don't agree, that's perfectly fine. I believe that we were all meant to go into nothingness. That was the original intent of the universe. That was the intent of the first ones. Now, I have an entire idea and theory about the first ones as well that suggests that they are not, in fact, the first ones that created what we see around us, but rather the first ones that were created and did some stuff. But I don't think, I'm starting to believe that they're not as important as we've been led to believe, and that they may in fact be extinct. They may no longer be around. They may be the original fathers of the light and the void. But the light, as it so often does, it wanted to interfere. It wanted to change the direction, the course. You see, it wanted to starve death of any and all of its power. And so it did. It created Oribos. It sent its own titans into Oribos and into the Shadowlands to subvert and bastardize the system that was meant to keep balance. The light would have the ability to create and to instill life, but ultimately it would return to nothingness. That was the ultimate balance. In fact, my belief right now is that the first ones may in fact be the Lords of Light. We've learned about the Void Lords. We've never learned about the Light Lords, the creatures that control the light. I believe that the first ones is exactly that. They are the Lords of the Light. Because they bastardized the system. They took it away from the Void and cast the Void out into nothingness, where the Void is too weak to actually return, to actually make a comeback. Now, remember we started this video talking about Zovaal, and then we took a massive, giant twist to everything but Zovaal. There's a theory currently on the Discord that people are throwing around and people are really discussing. The theory currently has to do with the runes on Zovaal's body. These runes, if you look at the weapons that they create, you look at Frostmourne, you look at Shalamorn, these runes appear to be cages. They appear to exist to hold things inside of it. For a long time, we thought that these runes were actually magical, that they had magical qualities and they would increase your power in some way, shape, or form. But everywhere we see these runes, they seem to be accompanied by some kind of prison. Even around Anduin, you see these runes and it keeps him locked inside. So why does the jailer have these runes all over his body? Well, there's a story as ancient as time itself. I suppose almost every single fairy tale has a version of this. The hero sacrifices himself for the greater good. His sacrifice ultimately leads to melancholy, to sadness, to depression, to corruption. And he then becomes the very thing he once despised, the very thing that he once fought against. We see this with Arthas. This is the story of Arthas, and it would be almost poetic if the very story of Arthas Menethil is a sort of foreshadowing, but not really, but foreshadowing because we didn't know at the time, of the story of Zovaal. What if, and this is where we get into pure-blooded fucking speculation, balls to the wall, get your tinfoil hats on. What if Zovaal offered his body as a prison to a Void Lord? In order to stop a Void Lord that most likely didn't wish to give up Ny'alotha, he decided to imprison it instead, and this is why he is called the Jailer. What if the Jailer has been called the Jailer long before his banishment? What if he became the banished one after he became the Jailer? He literally became the jail for an ancient evil, a lord of the shadow, a lord of the void. Think about it, how often the old gods spoke about death and how death should be a freeing experience and you should embrace death. Yogg-Saron goes too far as to call himself the god of death. So why is this a thing? Why is this premise? We know now that the old gods seemingly have nothing to do with death, and yet they talk about it often. Because they were the original arbiters of it. They were the arbiters of death, and it was taken away from them. And what if that is in fact the story of Zovaal? Imagine if Zovaal was the jail. He became the jail. He offered himself up to become that. But he has a Void Lord stuck inside of him. The masters of whispers, the masters of manipulation. And slowly over time, this thing manipulated him. This thing changed him. This thing convinced him that the very thing that they are doing is evil. It's wrong. That his best bet would be to stand with the Void Lords. Now the question becomes, what of his soul? What of Sargeras? Because it does appear as if they were working together. Where does all of this come in? And what exactly did he do to deserve his banishment? If it's true and he did actually offer himself up as a jail, he stood back and he said, I will take this. I will take this burden upon myself. It would be an honor. What did he do to deserve banishment? Why does his brothers and sisters hate him? Why do they fear him? I believe that he may have been the one who opened the door to life for the Void Lords. I believe that is why Zovaal was banished. That is why they took away the pathways of the first ones to him. Because he is the one that opened the door to the void. He allowed them into life, to corrupt and to gain the strength that they had lost for so very long. That they have been denied for so very long. I will end with the following, and this was something that someone in one of the comments in one of my videos said. In Tirisfal Glade, just a little bit off the path, there is an actual place. Well, it's near Tirisfal Glade. It's not actually in Tirisfal Glade. But there is an actual place called the Sepulchre. What if that is where his soul is now? It is in the Sepulchre. Remember, the Primus does warn us, do not let Zovaal reach the Sepulchre. But of course, this is just my theory, this is just my thinking on the matter. I would love to know what you think of this. I would love to get your theories. Did anything that I say change your mind, or are you still steadfast on no, you don't know what you're talking about, Akalon? It's clearly this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, if you like videos like this one, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and smash that bell. It does actually help out the channel a ton. And then, of course, to all of the YouTube channel members, the Twitch subs, and the patrons of this channel, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Without you guys, I would quite literally not be here. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, always, my name is Akalon, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.